Generational wealth invariably commences with one risk taker. That leader creates abundance that should withstand the test of time. But there are several case studies that prove that the diametrical opposite is generally true. Everybody focuses on generational wealth, but generational wealth cannot exist if it is not backed by generational promises. Generational promises turn obstacles into opportunities. I'm proud and humbled to be here today, surrounded by the 1% of financial advisors around the globe. There's so much talent and experience in this room, and what I know we all share is the intentionality of our purpose, the intentionality of putting in place and being the guardian of the generational promise. It was put best by my mentor and friend, Mr. David Blake. We all fly in rarefied air. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and for several reasons, including my freedom, my family moved to the United States. We were lucky enough that we were in the insurance industry in Venezuela. And when we moved to Miami, it was just it was continuation of the same noble cause. Most people fall into the insurance industry as a second career. And it usually goes something like this. A corporate recruiter reaches out, a few meetings, a few tests. Then the corporate recruiter has a meeting with a prospective agent's significant other, and boom, now you're off to the races. In my case, my corporate recruiter was my father and my grandfather. A tough outfit to say no to. I'm not sure what they saw. They probably saw the need for more manpower. I wasn't an easy recruit. It took some of that family encouragement to convince me that this was my path. Today, as a third-generation insurance advisor, I couldn't be more blessed. Since I started at a very young age, I had to be twice as good to be given half the chance. I failed fast, I failed hard, and I failed often. But I was very intentional in trying to create the generational promise. So picture an 18-year-old in its most essential form trying to sell a 20-year term. The client would say, César, the duration of the policy is longer than you've been alive. It doesn't obey reasonable standards that an 18-year-old is the originator of my generational promise. But Ben Bernanke put it best, if two people always agree, one is redundant. So I never gave up on business development, and I continued trying. Generational promises through life insurance is without a doubt the most efficient way to protect the dreams and visions of all those risk takers that created the generational wealth. This is an era where infotoxication has taken off and is a standard. Every and any type of information, including noise, is readily available. This high information diet, where the impact itself, pragmatically speaking, is very limited, but of course it creates huge waves in terms of media and client questions. Leveraging a small check for a future promise of a big check is just one of those powers of generational promises. One of my first lessons in the business came when I was 18. That's my first death claim. It was one of my father's clients I had passed. She had a $2 million policy on her life, and my father tasked me with delivering the check in Venezuela. Now, picture an 18-year-old getting on a flight down to Caracas, the capital, with a $2 million check in the jacket. Imagine the endless possibilities of what could go wrong. Full disclosure, at the moment, Caracas per capita was the country that consumed the most scotch in the world. And 18 is the legal drinking age. So there might have been some duplicity in my excitement, but I was on a mission. I was on a mission to complete that generational promise that our family made to theirs. I'm sure the greater part of this group travels abroad very often, and you know that hard limit of $10,000 of financial instrument hasn't been modified for a while. I might have been a tad a bit over the limit. I later found out that the beneficiary was in on the life lesson. But can you imagine how impacting and nerve-wracking it was? Not all countries have equivalent risks. Port-au-Prince, Haiti has exposure to earthquakes. Philippines has exposure to tsunamis. But can you guess what every country has? What every country has as a risk is life insurance, disability, and health. They all need to put in place a generational promise. Borders don't matter. Color doesn't matter. Language doesn't matter. And the geographic location is irrelevant. If they ever dream of creating or maintaining generational wealth, it must be backed by a generational promise. And so that has several messages. And it's a look at what I believe is a latent global opportunity. But to understand that it's an opportunity, you must acknowledge that it's there. I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all concept. Undoubtedly, the baseline that everybody benefits from are the promises that we all put into place. Today, I invite you to contemplate the inputs of insurance 100 years ago and the inputs today. A lot has changed, but our conscience should continue to have the spirit and the relentless pursuit of creating generational promises. It excites me that together we've created a movement, a global mission, that knowing or not, we're all participating in. It's not about the numbers. Everyone in this room is a 1% of the 1%. It's about the purpose and the why, the generational promise. Generational wealth cannot exist if it is not backed by a generational promise. As Kasparov, the great grand chess master, said, strategy is the future impact of present decisions. I couldn't be more grateful for your time. I look forward to seeing everyone at the debrief. Thank you.